Welcome to the Prescott Lab Podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. Gentlemen, tonight I want you to sit back, take a breath, and let me speak to you honestly. If you are over 60, if you felt that uneasy silence in the bedroom, that fading spark that once made you feel alive, this conversation is for you. And I promise you this isn't about selling another pill or chasing after surgeries that strip a man of his dignity. No, what we're talking about tonight is nature's own medicine, waiting quietly in your kitchen in bottles and jars you've walked past 1,000 times. Before we dive in, let me ask you for a small favor. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. And if what you're about to hear gives you even a flicker of hope, tap that like button. For you, it's a single click. For us, it's the reason we keep recording these long nights, the reason we bring you science you can trust, stories you can feel, and solutions that can change a man's life. That click tells us, keep going, doctor, we need more. Tonight's episode is about 5 castor oil formulas, 5 simple recipes that have reignited vitality for men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. I've watched men who thought their best years were behind them sit in my office, try one of these remedies, and walk out with a smile that spoke louder than words. Because when blood flows again, when energy stirs, when sensitivity returns, it's not just about intimacy. It's about being whole again. So stay with me until the end, because each formula is a piece of the puzzle. And the first one we'll explore, the fiery blend of castor oil and cayenne pepper, is what many men call the instant fire starter. It's where speed meets science, and where you may feel your body awaken faster than you believed possible. The instant fire starter, castor oil plus cayenne pepper. Gentlemen, I want you to picture this. You're sitting by a fireplace on a winter night. The wood is stacked neatly, but the logs just sit there cold and lifeless. Then someone strikes a single match and suddenly the whole room begins to glow with warmth. That's exactly what happens inside the body of a man when castor oil meets cayenne pepper. I'll never forget Mr. Lewis, 70 years old. When he first came to see me, he leaned across my desk, his voice hushed as though he were confessing a crime. "Doctor, I can't wait months or years. I need to feel alive again tonight. Is that even possible at my age?" The fear in his eyes wasn't just about intimacy. It was about identity, the quiet ache of feeling he'd lost his manhood. This is when I told him about the fiery recipe. A teaspoon of castor oil, that golden, penetrating base, mixed with only the tiniest pinch of cayenne powder. And here's why it works. Cayenne contains capsaicin, the very compound that makes a chili pepper sting your lips. But beyond the burn, capsaicin has been studied for decades for its remarkable effects on blood vessels and nerves. Research shows it stimulates endothelial cells, the lining of your arteries, to release nitric oxide. That means your vessels relax, open wide, and let blood surge where it needs to go. At the same time, capsaicin activates sensory nerve endings, creating that unmistakable warmth and tingling. Now here's where castor oil makes the difference. Oil is a carrier. It pulls the capsaicin deeper, past the skin's surface, into tissues that have been starved of circulation. Within minutes, the area doesn't just feel warm on the outside, it begins to awaken on the inside. Blood rushes in, oxygen floods the tissues. And men often tell me it feels as if a light that had gone out years ago is suddenly flickering back on. When Lewis tried it, he followed my exact instructions. 1 teaspoon of castor oil blended carefully with just a dusting of cayenne. Within 15 minutes, he said he felt the warmth spread across his pelvis, then a surge of firmness he hadn't known in years. The next week, he returned to my office, but this time he didn't whisper. He looked straight at me and said, "Doctor, for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again." And that, gentlemen, is the beauty of this formula. It isn't just about quick results, though it does deliver them. It's about the emotional shift. Imagine sitting beside your partner, worried your body won't respond, and then feeling that spark return. The relief, the pride, the joy of realizing age hasn't stolen everything you thought it had. But let me also remind you, fire alone doesn't keep a house warm through the long night. Quick flames can ignite passion, but without a steady current beneath them, they fade. And for a man to truly restore his strength, he needs not only the spark of heat, but the enduring foundation that allows that fire to burn steadily. That foundation, gentlemen, is where we must look next. To the foundation of circulation, castor oil plus ginger extract. Gentlemen, fire is powerful, but every flame needs air, every blaze needs fuel. Without circulation, without steady blood flow, nothing lasts. And that brings us to the foundation, the formula that builds the very highway your vitality must travel: castor oil and ginger extract. I think of Mr. Howard, 67 years old, who sat across from me with a heaviness in his voice. "Doctor, it's not just that I can't perform," he said, "it's that I don't even feel the pulse of life down there anymore." That silence, that absence of flow, was eating at him far more than the act itself, and I understood, because erections are not just mechanics. They are a man's silent proof that blood is still rushing strong through his body, that his engine is not yet out of fuel. This is where ginger comes in. For centuries, healers across Asia used ginger not just as a spice but as medicine. Modern science now explains why. Ginger stimulates the release of nitric oxide, the key chemical messenger that signals your blood vessels to relax and open. Without nitric oxide, arteries remain stiff, narrow, and unresponsive. With it, blood can flood into the chambers of the penis, filling them like a river after a storm. And when you combine ginger with castor oil, something extraordinary happens. Castor oil acts like a courier, carrying ginger's active compounds deeper into tissues. Imagine oiling the hinges of a door that hasn't opened in years. At first, there's resistance, but then suddenly the door swings free, smooth, and strong. That's what many men describe. Within minutes of massaging a teaspoon of castor oil with 3 or 4 drops of ginger extract, a warmth begins to spread, not superficial heat, but the deep, steady warmth of vessels awakening. Mr. Howard told me, "Doctor, it felt as if someone turned the lights back on after years of darkness." That warmth wasn't just on the skin, it was blood returning, oxygen rushing in, tissues remembering their purpose. In medical terms, we call this improved endothelial function. In human terms, it means life flowing again where silence had taken over. And this isn't just short-term. Used regularly, ginger helps train blood vessels to remain more flexible and responsive, almost like exercise for your circulation. Studies have even shown that ginger reduces oxidative stress and improves lipid profiles, meaning it doesn't just enhance intimacy, it protects the heart and brain as well. Gentlemen, that is the kind of remedy worth trusting, one that serves both passion and longevity. When Howard returned weeks later, his words carried a quiet pride. "Doctor, it wasn't only the bedroom. I feel stronger walking up the stairs. My hands are warmer. I feel younger." That's the mark of circulation restored. It changes more than performance. It changes the way you carry yourself, the way you feel about being alive. But as vital as steady flow is, there's another enemy we must face. Because what good is a river if the pipes that carry it are clogged? What happens when the very arteries meant to deliver blood are narrowed, hardened, or blocked? That's the challenge we must confront next. 3. Clearing the pipes: castor oil plus garlic oil. Gentlemen, let me be honest with you. A quick flame is thrilling and steady flow feels reassuring, but if the pipes themselves are clogged, none of it will matter. You can pour water into a hose all day long, but if the inside is choked with rust and debris, the stream never reaches its target. That's the reality many men over 60 face: arteries narrowed, stiffened, blocked by years of silent buildup. One man I think of often is Mr. Anderson, 74 years old. He came to see me after trying every pill his doctor had prescribed. "Doctor," he said, frustration in his voice, "the medicine works for a little while, but I can't stay firm. It slips away like I'm fighting against my own body." When we looked closer, the problem wasn't desire or even testosterone, it was the arteries. Plaque had built up over decades, silently choking off the very lifeline of his manhood. And this is where garlic becomes a gift. Garlic has been used in healing traditions for thousands of years, but modern research confirms its power. Compounds like allicin relax blood vessels, reduce stiffness, and even help dissolve fatty deposits lodged in artery walls. Studies show regular garlic intake lowers blood pressure, improves cholesterol, and increases arterial flexibility. In other words, garlic doesn't just nudge blood to flow, it clears the path so that blood can move freely again. When you combine garlic oil with castor oil, you create more than a surface remedy. Castor oil drives those active compounds deep into tissues, like sending in a specialized cleaning crew to scrub the pipes from the inside out. 1 teaspoon of castor oil blended with 2 drops of garlic oil, massaged gently into the lower abdomen and pelvic area. It sounds simple, but the effects can be profound. Mr. Anderson followed that routine faithfully. Weeks later, he walked back into my office not with frustration, but with relief etched across his face. He said, "Doctor, it's not just my erections that feel stronger. My energy is better. Even my blood pressure numbers came down." And I could see it in him. The man who had once been weighed down by hopelessness now carried himself taller, steadier, as though a burden had been lifted. That's the real magic of this formula. It's not just about intimacy. It's about protecting the very highways that carry life to your heart, your brain, your manhood. Because what good is one night of passion if the system behind it is failing? Garlic and castor oil together don't just help you tonight, they help you tomorrow and the years after. But once the pathways are cleared, there's still another challenge men often face. Blood may be able to reach its destination, but what if the engine itself is running empty? What if energy, stamina, and the very drive to live fully have been drained? That's when we must look deeper, to the fuel that rekindles a man from within. For fuel for the empty engine, castor oil plus ginseng extract. Gentlemen, I often tell my patients this: blood flow is the river, but energy is the current that pushes it forward. Without energy, without vitality, even the cleanest arteries can feel like hollow pipes with nothing moving through them. And I see this loss of energy in men as often as I see circulation issues. Take Mr. Carter, 66 years old. He came to me looking exhausted, not just in his body, but in his spirit. "Doctor," he said, "I still love my wife, I still want to be close to her, but the truth is I'm too tired. By the end of the day, I have nothing left to give." That confession carries a weight many men know too well, because intimacy is not just about mechanics. It's about the drive, the stamina, the fire behind the act. And when that fire dims, a man feels like a shadow of who he once was. This is where ginseng earns its legendary reputation. For centuries, it has been revered as a tonic for male vitality, and modern science confirms what tradition always suspected. Ginseng increases nitric oxide production, supports testosterone levels, and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. Clinical trials show it improves not only erectile function, but also overall energy, mental clarity, and physical endurance. In plain terms, ginseng doesn't just help you rise to the occasion, it helps you want the occasion in the first place. Now, when blended with castor oil, the results are amplified. Castor oil penetrates tissues deeply, carrying ginseng's energizing compounds into the very roots of circulation. Picture an old engine that has been sputtering on fumes. Then suddenly the tank is filled with high-octane fuel and the pistons roar back to life. That's what this formula feels like for many men, a slow, steady revival of strength that goes beyond the bedroom. The preparation is simple: 1 teaspoon of castor oil with 2 or 3 drops of ginseng extract applied gently in the evening. Mr. Carter followed this routine faithfully. A month later, he came back with a different posture, a light in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Doctor," he said, "I'm waking up earlier. I'm walking again. My wife says she feels like she has her husband back, not just in bed, but in life." And she wasn't wrong. His blood work showed healthier testosterone levels, lower stress markers, and improved energy profiles. But more than that, his spirit had returned. Gentlemen, this is the deeper truth. Erections are not only about blood, they are about energy, confidence, presence. When energy is drained, the body may perform mechanically, but the soul isn't in it. When energy is restored, everything changes: relationships, mood, even the way you look in the mirror. And yet, even with energy roaring back, there's still one more piece many men confess to me in private. They whisper it like a secret: "Doctor, I can get firm again, but I don't feel the spark. The pleasure is dull." And that, gentlemen, is perhaps the most overlooked piece of all: the return of sensation, the awakening of nerve endings that make intimacy electric once more. 5 awakening sensation, castor oil plus peppermint oil. Gentlemen, strength and stamina are vital, but there's something even more intimate that too often gets overlooked: sensation. Many men confide in me that even when they achieve firmness again, the spark of pleasure feels muted. "Doctor," they whisper, "I can perform, but I don't feel it the way I used to. It's like the volume has been turned down on my own body." That quiet loss can be just as devastating as losing an erection altogether. Because intimacy is not just about presence, it's about feeling. It's about the electricity that runs through a touch, the thrill of connection, the reminder that you are still alive, still capable of joy. I think here of Mr. Franklin, 73 years old. Married for more than 40 years, he sat in my office and confessed, "Doctor, my wife and I are close, but it feels mechanical. I go through the motions, but the excitement is gone. It's like I've forgotten what passion feels like." His words carried the sadness of a man who feared that chapter of his life had closed forever. This is where peppermint steps onto the stage. Peppermint contains menthol, a compound known to awaken sensory nerves. In scientific terms, menthol activates receptors called TRPM8 ion channels, the same ones that fire when you feel a cool breeze across your skin. But when applied with castor oil, menthol doesn't just tickle the surface. Castor oil pulls those molecules deep into the tissues, reactivating nerve endings that may have dulled with age. The effect, as my patients describe, is nothing short of electric. A cool tingling begins, then spreads, sharpening every sensation. The body remembers, the spark returns. What once felt muted becomes vivid again, every touch, every moment alive with intensity. Mr. Franklin tried 1 teaspoon of castor oil blended with 2 drops of peppermint oil, massaged gently before intimacy. When he returned weeks later, the change was visible in his posture, in his smile. "Doctor," he told me, "it wasn't just that I was able to perform, it was that I felt every moment again. It was like lightning running through my body." For the first time in years, intimacy felt real. His wife later sent me a letter, not thanking me for a treatment, but for giving them back the joy of connection they thought was lost. And that, gentlemen, is the essence of this final formula. It reminds us that intimacy isn't only about strength or endurance. It's about pleasure, about passion, about the thrill of being present in your own skin. Peppermint and castor oil don't just restore performance, they restore excitement. We have now walked through all 5 formulas: the spark of fire, the foundation of flow, the clearing of arteries, the fuel of energy, and the awakening of sensation. Each plays a role, but together they form a complete path back to confidence, vitality, and joy. And before we close, I want to leave you with one final message, a reminder of why these remedies matter, and why, no matter your age, you must never give up on your manhood. 6. The final word: you're not broken. Gentlemen, we've walked a long road together tonight. From the fiery spark of Cayenne that lights the match to ginger, the steady hand that opens the flow to garlic, the quiet guardian that clears the pipes to ginseng, the deep fuel that restores a man's drive, and finally peppermint, the cool spark that awakens sensation. Each remedy carries its own gift. Alone, they can bring change, but together, they create something greater, a pathway back to strength, confidence, and joy. I've seen it in men of 60, 70, even 80, men who once sat across from me with their heads bowed, believing their best years were gone, and I've watched them rise again, not only in body, but in spirit. Here's what I want you to remember: age does not define your manhood. A number on your birthday cake does not strip you of your right to passion, to intimacy, to vitality. What changes with age is not your capacity, but your approach. And when you choose nature's remedies, when you give your body the right signals, it remembers. The blood flows, the energy stirs, the spark returns. I know some of you listening tonight have felt discouraged. Maybe you've tried pills that left you with side effects or treatments that felt like empty promises. Maybe you've quietly accepted decline as your fate, but hear me clearly, you are not broken. You are not finished. Your body is waiting for the right push, the right support to remind you of what it was always capable of. And if tonight's journey has given you even a flicker of hope, if it's made you think, maybe it's not too late for me, then do me one favor. Press that like button right now. It may feel small, but it's the fuel that tells us to keep creating, to keep recording these nights, to keep sharing science you can trust. Subscribe if you haven't, so you never miss another chance to learn, and leave me a comment, even just a simple "I've been there." You'd be surprised how many men are walking the same road as you, quietly, silently, waiting for a sign they're not alone. Gentlemen, remember this: your best years aren't behind you. They're waiting ahead if you choose to claim them. And I'll be right here with you, guiding you step by step. Because the truth is simple: you don't need to surrender to age. You just need to remind your body of what it was made to do. This is Dr. Jonathan Prescott, and I'll see you next time here at the Prescott Lab Podcast, where science meets life and every man can reclaim his strength.